microphone is on. Public Safety Commission is called to order. We begin to acknowledge that the land on which we gather and that is currently known as the City of West Hollywood is the occupied, unceded, seized territory of the Gabrielino Tongva and Gabrielino Quiche peoples. Please join Vice Chair Blau in the Pledge of Allegiance and stand if you are able.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Vice Chair Blau. Commission Secretary, can I get a roll call, please? Commission Manager.
Commissioner Eng.
Here.
Commissioner Hallman.
Here.
Commissioner Pilarski.
Here.
Commissioner Post.
Here.
Commissioner Winnick.
Here.
Vice Chair Blau.
Aye.
Chair Harrison.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. And next up is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda? Seeing no changes, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. May I please get a roll call?
Commissioner Eng.
Aye.
Commissioner Hallman.
Aye.
Commissioner Pilarski.
Aye.
Commissioner Post.
Aye.
Commissioner Winnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Blau.
Aye.
Chair Harrison.
Aye. The agenda is approved. Next is the approval of the minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes for April 27th, 2026? Okay, seeing no changes, can I please get a roll call?
Commissioner Eng.
Aye.
Commissioner Hallman.
Aye.
Commissioner Pilarski.
Aye.
Commissioner Post.
Aye.
Commissioner Winnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Blau.
Aye.
Chair Harrison.
Aye. The minutes are approved. Next is public comments. Commission Secretary, do we have any speakers at this time or any callers on Zoom?
We do not have any callers on Zoom, but we do have public speakers. Our
Great.
first speaker will be Paul Nicholas. If you could come please go to the podium.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Paul Nichols. I've lived in West Hollywood for over 20 years. Have also been a business owner here for pretty much that entire time. I'm one of the partners of Beaches Tropicana nightclub, and basically here to speak about something that happened over this weekend. We're having increased issues with unlicensed vendors on the corner, on many corners, but it seems to affect that corner of San Vicente and Santa Monica Boulevard pretty heavily. Aside from the obvious health issues that the hot dogs sit in the back of trucks for 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, it's really become more of a safety issue for us. There's so many of them now, sometimes a dozen, 14 of them, that they're all competing for the same business. So they basically try to block any exits and try to block any kind of public movement because they essentially want to try and sell people the hot dogs. And this is then blocking the emergency exits from the club that we use. And not only are they blocking these emergency exits, but they're blocking them with very kind of flimsy carts that are full of hot grease and have somewhat explosive tanks of propane gas under them. And you know, obviously emergency exits are used for emergencies. If there ever was an incident with somebody in the club that had to be ejected by our security from the club, they are ejected through those exits. We clear those pathways for a reason so we can eject somebody efficiently and safely. Now you're looking into a situation where potentially ejecting somebody, usually when people get ejected from a club, they're not really happy to go. So they're not exactly walking in orderly fashion. It very easily could happen that somebody gets ejected to the club. Either they fall into one of these hot, boiling over things of grease, or even worse, push somebody who just happens to be standing there near the exit and they fall into it. So it's becoming a really serious safety issue. The grease is also poured into the gutters, onto the sidewalks at the end of the night. It's not disposed of. We've seen many slip and falls from people slipping in the grease. The other thing is when we eject people with fake IDs or underage people trying to get in the bar, they now have attracted, because they attract people on the street eating, people who are now selling liquor. So then you have underage people who are now on the corner drinking and eating, and then all of a sudden fights start breaking out on the corner. And to be clear, the majority of these fights are not fights spilling out from the clubs. They're fights that are actually starting on the corners from people who are coming who can't get into the club, either because they've been 86 for the club for bad behavior in the past, or because they're minors getting drunk on the corners and fighting on the street corners outside the clubs. So, you know, it's not, these aren't independent operators trying to make a living. You know, they all come on one truck, which has now become 2 trucks, which is maybe why you're starting to see some of these turf fights. All their Venmos, all their PayPals, all their payment things, they don't take cash. So, and all their payment forms go to the same place. It's not going to separate places. And it's just, it's obvious what it's become. You know, we saw a girl out there the other day, and one of my dancers asked her how old she was, and she said she just turned 14. So it's just a dangerous situation. It's a situation where people are being exploited, and it's putting our citizens in a very unsafe place. So I wanted to bring that to everybody's attention here today. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Robert Hawthorne.
Hi there. My name is Robert Hawthorne, and I have been a tax-paying resident of West Hollywood since 2009. I've owned several homes here and paid plenty of taxes and then really invested my life here. I'm here tonight because of the situation with unlicensed vendors on the streets, and to echo kind of what Paul said, I actually counted from Trunks to the Abbey on each side on a Saturday night, 40 of those hot dog carts. It's not like just a dozen. And I personally slipped and fall and actually had to go to the hospital in front of the club, in front of Beaches Tropicana, from the grease. So this is a safety council. That's a serious safety issue. And you know, as we're seeing plenty of these fights now, and they'll threaten you. They hustle you. I feel like I'm like walking across the border in Tijuana. They're hustling me like to buy a hot dog. I'm like, I don't want a hot dog. It's just gotten really, like these people don't look like a few independent people just trying to make a living. It's organized, as Paul said. They're coordinated vending operations. They come into West Hollywood on our busy night because they know that they set up in groups and they claim these high traffic areas, which it's literally the sidewalk, and we all know how tight that sidewalk is. So people are having to walk in the street, which I don't know why we wouldn't just give them a certain area, maybe in front of the sheriff's station, that is not so congested, and it's not such a safety issue, because people are spilling out into the street, and we know how, when people are intoxicated, what's gonna happen. Somebody's gonna get hit by a car, and somebody's gonna die, because people are going really fast there, and that's happened plenty of times. As I said, many of these people do not feel like they don't look like they're from here. They're not, I mean, they don't appear to be living here. They are clearly not paying any taxes like the brick and mortar businesses are. They're not operating under the same permits or any permits. They don't pay insurance, they don't get inspections, they're not sanitary, and they're not held accountable like a licensed vendor. And they come into our city and they profit off our nightlife. It's really not right. And sorry, I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Steve Martin.
Steve Martin, West Hollywood, and as a resident and a person who goes to Boys Town, I just want to echo the concerns and make sure that they're heard, because we're approaching Pride Weekend, which is a major financial opportunity for the city. And what we have is a situation that is not conducive to encouraging people who have income to come here and spend their money. They're gonna come and spend it someplace where they feel safe. You know, we saw the video from a couple of weeks ago where the guy was, a group of people, one of them had a dog, and someone, you know, had an altercation with the dog, and the next thing there was a brawl. The guy with the dog is not going to the bars. Those people were not going to the bars. They're just hanging out. And maybe it's a chicken versus the egg, but since we've had the issue with these vendors, there's just a lot more people that appear to be doing nothing more than hanging out, and a lot of them are underage. And you know that they're able to get whatever, because you've had reports about illegal sales of alcohol in the street. So I think I don't think, I know that the residents and the businesses want to see this made a priority, not simply something where we come here, people tell you, people comment on the various blogs or online newspapers. But we want to see some action because this is not good for our neighborhoods. It's really not good for our businesses. I mean, recently one of our council members declared the Sunset Strip dead. I don't think we can have Boys Town being dead. We can't really afford to be gambling by being politically correct, because your job and the city council's job is to listen to the concerns of the residents and businesses, the people who've invested in this community, and put their priorities first. I understand that the state passed the street vendor law, but a lot of that was meant to be in neighborhoods where they would be normally used. I'm not saying that we can't have street vendors, but there's obviously an excessive amount, and something is just peculiar, odd, unbelievable about what's going on right now, and it needs to be addressed. It's very frustrating. I know Councilmember Hang had tried to make an issue of it, but he basically backed off. And it's discouraging because people like myself and other people in the neighborhood who work in the neighborhood watch don't feel that the city council is putting public safety first. There's a lot of lip service and this and that, but you know, these people, they didn't support Prop 36, they haven't been there when we needed them, and frankly, people are getting very fed up. So thank you very much.
Stephanie Harker.
Good evening, Commissioners. I have a couple of things that need to be addressed at Plummer Park. One, the little hellions are still tearing around the neighborhood through the park, and it seems to be just these two particularly, but I was over at a neighbor's on Fuller and Fountain yesterday, and we saw them zoom by. One of them wears no helmet and is on an electric bike, and the other one at least had a helmet on. But she said, oh, they hang out on my property all the time, and if I say anything, they flip me off or drop an F-bomb. So the whole neighborhood seems to be terrorized by them, and I hope that, I haven't mentioned this to the sheriffs yet, but I think that park staff needs to do something about it. It's just not right, and before somebody gets seriously injured. Another issue is, of course, I lost my place, sorry. The things that came to light in the article on WehoVille about the vendors, there were other things other than just selling of hot dogs and things that were quite shocking. For instance, one of them who's working is a 14-year-old girl, and they say they have handlers. Well, that's just a nice word for a pimp, if you ask me. I'm really concerned that there's a lot more going on, that this is a crime ring. I don't know if you remember the kids who used to go around and sell chocolate bars. I thought, oh, well, that's great. They're, making money for their sports teams. Turns out there was someone standing off to the side, and I just happened to be there when he came along to collect the money for them and give them a couple of bucks. So this seems to be a lot bigger issue. And the selling of alcohol as well. I think Mr. Rivas told us all that that would be the ABC. So how do we get them here doing undercover things? Checking to make sure these kids, who knows, these young girls, I mean, are they being trafficked? We don't know. I don't know how we find out, but again, I think it might take, since the sheriffs can only do so much, that it might take going higher up the ladder to make sure we're safe. And also, I hope that something came of the request for the WeHo Cares team to have someone who uses ASL as their language, so that the people who are deaf can be taken care of as well and understand what's going on in their world. Thank you.
Kathy Blavis.
Hi, good evening. Kathy Blavis, City of West Hollywood. I'm here also tonight to speak about the situation with the vendors. And as Steve Martin said, Vice Mayor Hang brought an item before council to discuss what possibilities there may be, even though there's a state law. And that was shot down by Councilmember Byers and Councilmember Erickson. So I would ask those of you who are their appointees to speak directly to them and let them know it's not just a handful of people who are perhaps, as oftentimes Councilmember Erickson accuses us of, spreading lies or misinformation. These are facts. These are facts that people are frightened. And also, as Steve Martin said, people are going to stop coming to West Hollywood. It's getting scary to come to West Hollywood. So again, I encourage you to speak to your council members and encourage them to take away the expression, our hands are tied, and see what we can do. There has to be a way, and in terms of them blocking sidewalks, blocking exits, that's an ADA compliance issue. So perhaps, this commission should speak with the Disability Advisory Board and bring these things up. I don't want you all to sit up there and feel your hands are tied, because they're really not. I think, again, if you speak to your council members and let them understand that this is serious business. Thank you very much.
Kyle Brazil.
Thank you. Kyle Brazil, resident of West Hollywood. I think it's a little bit sad and embarrassing that we as a city have to keep talking about the same problem over and over again. Back in October 2025, Councilmember Hang acknowledged that the street vendors were a problem. We knew it was an issue. We spoke about it at the last public safety meeting, and here we are again seeing street fights among the hot dog vendors. It's time for the city to act and focus more on solutions rather than excuses for why we can't act. I want to dispel, I think, a problematic narrative that members of this commission offered last time, that police presence does not somehow deter crime. There was a study by Princeton, by Professor Stephen Mello, who examined the causal effects of police on crime. What that study showed resoundingly was a large, statistically significant effect of police on robbery, larceny, auto theft, and murders. It also showed arrest rates do not increase with the expansion of that police presence, suggesting a deterrence mechanism underlying crime reduction. So I'm sorry, but this lie that having police on the street does not somehow deter crime is a problem, and we can't have a council that's not willing to address that reality. Right, what happens by the lack of that presence is exactly what we see. We have not only WeHo Online, WeHo Times, but also KTLA talking about WeHo not being in control of our own streets, having craziness on the streets, weekends of fights, weekends of hot dog vendors going crazy, antagonizing code enforcement and law enforcement. That's a problem, and we need to address it and stop pretending like it doesn't exist or that we're doing some favor to the community by not addressing it. It's time to get real with addressing the problem at hand. I'd also just like to speak a little bit to what this problem of police force stretched too thin does. Last Thursday, I've spoken a few times about my mailboxes being burglarized 4 times. As of Thursday, that's now 5 times. I came home, again, multiple mailboxes had been popped open. I called the sheriff's department to report it. They had their hands full with a smash and grab on Melrose Avenue. So again, we have this problem where our police are already stretched too thin that they can't even respond to the number of burglaries happening in a single night in our city. What I would say is, in the meantime, that's a problem and we need to address it. And I'm sick of the city pretending like that doesn't exist. Aside from that, in the immediate short term, we need to improve collaboration between our law enforcement apparatus and public safety bodies. We've got law enforcement who gets stretched too thin, And that night, the result of that was nothing happened, right? We had video evidence of someone breaking into our mailboxes that could have been shared more broadly in the community, perhaps through security ambassadors, perhaps through some other body, but we need a more real-time partnership between law enforcement, the security ambassador program, neighborhood watch groups, to ensure that as these things are unfolding, we can immediately get that information out to the public. We shouldn't be relying on apps like Citizen or other third-party providers to enforce safety in our community. So I'd just say, again, let's acknowledge the problems that we really have, let's do something about it, and let's act in the short term to improve collaboration to ensure that our community is safer while we wait for a council that's willing to act. Thank you.
Ed Holman.
Good evening. I wasn't going to comment on the hot dog thing, but back in the 90s when I was a door guy at Mickey's, those hot dog carts were there back then. So they've been a problem for a very long time. Last Monday, just before the city council meeting, I went to another part of town, east of Fairfax, to check to see on the status of codes on buildings. I found some more on that side of town. Used the app to report them, and then I came to the city council meeting and spoke about it. A couple of days later, I received an email from the app that the status of those tickets were completed. So I'm like, cool, doing a good job. Today, I got a call from Ruben, I forget his last name, but starts with a V, with Athens. He called to respond to my comments from the last city council meeting. He says that they have sent letters to property owners, but they haven't heard anything back in response, and that they aren't able to go onto properties and mark out the codes without the owner's permission. If they receive notice from an address, they'll respond and take care of it. I was late getting here tonight because I went to check on the 2 codes that I found last week that were marked completed from the app, and they're still there. I just talked to a neighbor that was out there, and I'm like, I gotta go, I gotta get to the meeting, go talk about this. So I pointed them out to them, and they're still there. What does completed look like to the city? Because if the codes are still there, I don't know how the ticket's marked completed. How can an item be marked completed when it isn't? Who is accountable when I keep hearing about these mailboxes that are broken into buildings? If they're internal, guess how they're getting in? The codes are on the buildings. Somebody needs to get these codes off the buildings, please. Thank you.
Robert Trendy.
Hello, my name is Bobby Trendy. I've lived in the Norma Triangle since 1991. I love living here. I love City Council. I love my police. I love everything. I'm here to speak about the hot dogs. I feel that the hot dogs, I know West Hollywood loves this one word called inclusive. We love using that word. I love including everyone. But I don't like them being included in front of rent-paying businesses that are serving food, like Z Pizza. He's been there for around 30 years. We have Drip and Dolce, a new upstart place. We have Pump Tom Tom's and the original pizza places. If we want to include other entrepreneurs that do not live, own, or rent, like I do in this city, then we could give them a special place, maybe at the park next door to the Abbey. There's a lot of room, a lot of lighting, or in San Vicente where people can grab a hot dog and go home so they can feel included as well. But I feel in these other businesses, they're paying a very high rent, and for have someone to be selling hot dogs or food in front of them, I don't think it's really fair to them. Because if that was one of my businesses, I would do it the Bobby Trendy way. I would start giving hot dogs away for free. But that's just my way of doing business. Thank you, and I do love each and every one of you.
We have no further speakers for public comment.
Thank you very much. Do we have, I see there's no unfinished business this evening, so we'll move to new business and a report from our Los Angeles County Fire Department.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Public Safety Commission. Chief Smith, unfortunately, was not able to make it, and there is a battalion chief that typically kind of sits in from time to time to kind of fill in, and so that individual also is not working today. They do have a battalion chief, but it's from outside of the area. So with that in mind, I'll be presenting on behalf of the Los Angeles County Fire Department. Olivia, if I can get the report of the screen up on there, just so members of the public and so the commissioners as well. And so the report for April, I do want to comment, I guess, before I hop into there. I know Anita Shandy had provided some information regarding the March report, saying that the Los Angeles County Fire Department did find some discrepancies. They did transition recently, right, within the last 2 months or so, to a new software kind of database. And I know the chief had mentioned that, you know, we were going to see a little bit of a change. So part of that change, obviously on the fire department side, is they did identify some overages on that report. And so that's the reason why you're seeing that March updated revised report. And so if members of the public want to take a look at that, for those that do review that, that's the reason why you're seeing 2 reports for this month, because we wanted to make sure for transparency purposes that we had the most up-to-date monthly report for March. But for the month of April, there were 556 total responses from fire stations 7 and 8. When you compare that to the same month last year, that is a decrease. You know, last year, the same time, we had 614. So just to kind of see that noticeable decline. Medical responses continue to be the makeup, the majority makeup of the report. So there's nothing that's trending elsewhere that would cause you know, any concern. When we look at the number of patients that have been seen by the fire department for this month, we did see an increase in comparison to the same month last year, 473 versus 439. Again, when you kind of look at the highest point out of all of those topics, you're seeing a person sick as being, again, kind of attributing to the medical calls, right, that we're seeing that our fire department partners are responding to. Transports for this last month of this year was at 300. That's relatively the same in comparison to last year, that was at 303. So really no change or difference. But when I scroll down to fire incidents, we are seeing less fire incidents, at least again, for the month of April in comparison to last year. We do have 2 structure fires and 3 outside fires. I will say the structure fires, just so the commission and members of the public are aware, we are notified of any sort of structure fire, and in particular, any sort of residential structure fires, because of course we want to make sure if we need to react in terms of trying to find residents that are displaced, shelter, and we of course want to get any sort of updates as it relates to was somebody injured, right, as a part of those residential structure fires. So we did not have any folks that were injured, thank goodness, in any of those fires that occurred for April of this year. But we did have some folks that were displaced as it relates to that, you know, while that work and those repairs are continuing and evolving. We did have one, it looks like, hazardous call, gas leak investigation, and it looked like the fire department did identify some malfunctioning appliance as it relates to that and handled that situation. But when you look at April of last year, there was quite a bit more fire incidents that were going on. We had 6 and we had 5 hazardous incidents. So much less again for this reporting period. So that concludes the presentation on behalf of the Los Angeles County Fire Department. If the commission has any questions or anything of that sort, we'll definitely notate those, and then we can pass that on to the battalion chief or chief and make sure that they're following up next month.
Thank you. Vice Chair Blau?
Thank you. Director Rivas, did you say that they transitioned from their system like as of April or as of March?
Yeah, you know, January, I think
1st.
I heard Anita,
January.
yeah, January
Okay.
this year.
Just the driving question or driving point of the question is from March to April, the categories in the patient scene are totally different. So it's a little bit hard to compare apples to apples to see if we've got anything in there. So if you could just pass that along, maybe. consistency, I think, would be helpful there.
Absolutely, and good eye. We'll definitely pass that on to them.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ng?
Thank you, Chair. Director, actually, I sent an email to ask, I guess, first off, I know that the medical report from last month was adjusted, but I was not actually able to go back and look at what the discrepancy in number was. So do you have is it possible to tell us what the difference, like I know it went to like 490, but I don't remember what it had been. Can you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna, I don't know, I'm gonna look at Anita and see. I think there was an email communication, but I know she's multitasking over there, but if not, we'll be sure to kind of pull that up and we can respond during items from staff.
Yes, I do believe there was 42 duplicates. So originally reported there was a over-reporting of 42 medical responses.
Okay,
so after their audit, they removed those 42 duplicates.
Okay, so I think I mentioned to staff that I had spoken with someone on the Older Adult Advisory Board who, well, I guess I have multiple questions. The board member asked if I could tell them what sort of medical calls were happening for seniors. And I was wondering if they ever go in and report. I mean, is that our job or our responsibility as liaisons to do that? Or do they ever get reports from fire or sheriffs or do any of the other commissions?
So the other commissions or advisory boards do not receive any sort of additional reports. And so if like a liaison or somebody kind of reached out, whatever reports we're already providing to the Public Safety Commission essentially is what should be provided to that advisory board. I don't know for certain if the fire department has the capability of whether they're tracking whether somebody kind of meets an older adult criteria or what that is. But we can certainly ask and see if that's something that they can provide maybe some detail about.
Yeah, I know that when I asked the acting chief last month, it was very anecdotal, which is something that we discussed. And if it's possible to find out what the nature of those calls are, I'd like for us to get that information and be able to report it back to them if we can. Thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Post?
Yes, no questions of the report, but thank you. I just wanted to add also congrats on the $500,000 of federal funding. I think that I saw that's going to be directed to Fire Station 8. I know that's part of a bigger renovation, but looking forward to making sure that our firefighters have a nice place to stay and all the resources they need. So thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any public speakers at this time?
We do not have any public speakers.
Okay. Thank you for that report. Sorry, Commissioner Pilarski.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a general fire question for staff. Should I do that now or later? Okay. This is relating to the fire map conversation that came up at the last city council meeting. There was a discussion that those fire maps had influenced some properties, and we were going to take a look at what that influence was and present that to our neighbors. Is that something that would come to the commission?
Great. I'm glad you asked that, Commissioner Pilarski. So that's related to CAL FIRE at the state level. They're fire hazard severity zone maps. Mm-hmm. And so, council did give staff direction to do outreach in the community to kind of learn more about, the impacts, right? The negative impacts, essentially, because as we've heard from a few properties, their insurance rates were impacted by that. And so, and that was something as a part of the outreach, or at least the information, I'll say, that's still reflected on CAL FIRE's website that states that that shouldn't have happened, right? So, we'll be conducting outreach. City Council directive did not include direction specifically for it to return back to the Public Safety Commission. Like we've always mentioned, if there's ample time for us to do that, we can certainly add that on the agenda, but if things get kind of tight and we don't have the ability to do that, then we would return straight to City Council with that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Do we have any public speakers at this time? No.
We do not have any.
We do not. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the report. Next up on our agenda, 8B, we'll hear from our Security Ambassador Program. Welcome.
Good evening, Commissioners. Tonight, I will be presenting the April 2026 Public Safety Report for the West Hollywood Security Ambassador Program. For April 2026, the team maintained an average response time of 7 minutes citywide while continuing proactive patrols, public assistance, and coordinating with city partners and public safety resources. Citywide totals for the month are as follows. We documented a total of 4,580 hospitality assistance contacts, 1,412 business contacts, and 1,050 unhoused contacts and referrals. The team also responded to 1,300 calls for service, conducted 13 safety escorts, addressed 204 scooter improperly parked, and required LASD assistance on 61 occasions. We also had a total of 31 EMS and fire personnel assistance. Compared to April of 2025, the program saw increases in hospitality, calls for service, sheriff assistance, EMS and fire related, and unhoused engagement. Additionally, the program referred 1,050 calls to the Homeless Concern Line during the reporting period. We are currently staffed and our training compliance are both at 100%. That concludes our report, and we are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I just had a question about, speaking with the older adults board or commission, one thing that came up was awareness of the services that you all provide, and they felt that maybe they're not fully aware. So I'm just curious if you have any specific outreach that you're doing on occasion, or just even out in the field. Are you speaking with older adults, or do you relay to them what services are available to them, including escorts and other things?
Absolutely. That's actually something that we've been reminding our team, that while they're out on patrol, we're conducting business contacts, hospitality contacts, to make sure that we're advising them what services we provide, and in the event that they don't have our dispatch number, to provide that as well too.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Hallman?
Thank you, Chair. I'm curious, I know we have an ambassador kiosk in Plummer Park, but that's near the tennis courts. I have seen, personally myself, youth on bicycles riding around the middle of the park. Is your team seeing this type of activity? And am I correct, is there a lead officer in the park as well? I don't know the position, but is this something that's being reported to Allied? Because this seems to be an ongoing issue.
Yes, we have a safety officer, and we also have a security ambassador, both at Plummer Park, and they are seeing these issues. They're addressing them in real time.
What are they allowed to do to help curb this situation?
Verbal communication and coaching.
But is this working? Because again, this seems to be an ongoing situation with these kids in the park. Like, how do we correct this situation?
Yeah, sorry about that.
So a lot of times our ambassadors are coming in contact with the kids' parents. Our SSO and our ambassadors do go ahead and approach the kids' parents and, you know, let them know the park rules where they're not allowed to ride the scooters or the bicycles there. For the most part, we do notify them, you know, it's something we could contact code enforcement for, and if they don't comply, we would have to proceed with the sheriffs. But for the most part, it's a difficult situation when the parents aren't being helpful. But for the most part, it's a deterrent when, you know, we do go ahead and make contact with the parents at the park.
Okay. Director Rivas, is there a bigger picture solution here, a way this can be addressed?
In regards to the, it sounds like youth, right, that are on bicycles in the park. Yeah, that is a challenging aspect. I mean, we certainly, if we're hearing of which we've heard of these concerns, we can definitely have our code enforcement staff partner with the ambassadors to go out there and do some focused efforts. If we're seeing it on a specific day and specific hours and time frame, that would be helpful, because then we can pull 2-3 code enforcement officers to kind of focus on that. But we wouldn't be able to be out there, of course, every day. But we'll make our best effort to do that, and that typically will curb the activity for a short period of time. But unfortunately, we will start seeing that come back. But educating the parents, and as Jackie has mentioned, a lot of times when you're interacting, then you have the parent that comes in and they get quite upset. But nonetheless, I mean, staff will bring that to their attention and kind of reiterate the rules and the regulations as it relates to that. So it's definitely something that we'll work with the ambassadors. I know they're there obviously daily. We do have a safety officer that's a lead at the park, kind of interacting with difficult situations, and so we'll get more from both Valerie and Jackie in terms of those time frames, and then we'll schedule some stuff in the next week or so.
Yeah, so is there a way, because your reports are great and quite comprehensive, is there a way of possibly adding these incidents to the reports so you have detailed metrics that then can go to code, so code knows, all right, maybe these are specific times where we can be in the park and look for this activity? Because as you said, Director Rivas, they obviously can't be there all the time. So is there a way to add this to the report so we can at least see if there are peak hours where this is more prevalent in the park?
I could track it on the reports, and I could definitely get with the city and work something out, as Danny said.
Okay, that would be.
Yeah, and I think, obviously I think exploring in their system, right, where they kind of enter in their data, their incident reports, et cetera. So I don't know whether or not, Valerie or Jackie know that if there's a topic right now that's keeping track of that, but if there is a ability to create a new topic that addresses that, then it makes it easier to kind of abstract that information. That's definitely something they can explore. If it's something manual, that obviously takes some time, but definitely we hear the concerns, and this is important, so we'll make sure to kind of revisit and look at that.
Yeah, like I said, the update with the reports, Valerie, is amazing. The reports look great now, so maybe if there's a way to add that information. And then lastly, are you ready for Pride?
We're always ready.
All right. All right, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Pilarski.
Thank you, Chair. And I did want to just kind of build on what Commissioner Hallman was saying. It sounds like, it's one of our speakers tonight is being harassed by these kids. That's not a comfortable situation. So it's a little bit more than being on bikes in a park. I wanted to echo Commissioner Hallman's compliments on the reports. I'm really excited about them. I think they're super comprehensive, and I'm just so happy with their evolution from day one to now. So thank you so much. I wanted to ask, I have another question for city staff. Director Rivas, is there a time and place where we can start to overlay this information with our sheriff's reports? Is there a world where we hire some GIS person to help us with that? Or, doesn't have to be 2026, but it just seems like that's such an opportunity for us now that we're collecting all this data.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of the change, and Olivia, could I get you to maybe put up what I have on my screen right now so that the community also can see this. But part of the change that was made, as you're seeing, is the map. And let me expand this just a little bit further. So this map here and the reporting districts replicates the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department map and their reporting districts. So the intent of that was to do exactly what you mentioned. The difficulty is you have Allied Universal that has their own system, right? And then you have the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department that has their system, right? So it would make it a lot easier if all of them were operating under a city system, that like the Excella service request system that the city has, it's the city's official app, right? So that does have a GIS map, et cetera, but there is information sharing. I mean, we wanted to make sure that we were replicating this time around with the implementation of the Security Ambassador Program, kind of looking at the city as a whole and then breaking that down, right, with west, central, and east areas. So that is something we're going to explore. That was the idea. We did, when I say we, the city did hire and has a position filled right now that is a GIS specialist. I don't know his exact title, but he's been working on the Vision Zero dashboard and doing a lot of work. So I know there's like a long list of things that he's working on, but if there's a way to kind of integrate these two external systems into a way that we could have some overlay and see some comparisons, we'll definitely be able to do that. But I can't tell you for sure that that's going to be the case, but yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think some of our speakers tonight, you know, obviously some of these little connections are quite obvious, right? And so if there's a way that we can talk to staff and find different deadlines for, you know, if we're doing a semi-annual report, maybe the next one has it, or we can say that we're working towards that. And then in honor of Bike Month, May, I just wanted to remind you guys to let your bike patrol ambassadors know to take the lane, to have charged lights on them, and yeah, just to be confident out there. I know it's a little scary, but the city is doing an event. We'd love to see some of your patrol at the event on Thursday as well, so thank you.
Commissioner Eng?
You know, actually, Valerie and Alan, the first time I came to see you at the office was about these kids. And it's been revealed or made known that their parents generally don't care, which I think is what you're saying. And I guess I'm curious if it would be possible to reach a point of being able to ticket them, if making them responsible for what's happening with not, I don't know, allowing the minors to do whatever or to ride these devices without any sort of oversight. Or I think to ride a scooter, is there an age limit to be able to ride a scooter? None?
Only renting.
Even motorized? But like, well, I guess if it's a Lime or one of the whatever, then you have to be over 18. But if it's an individual one, I guess not, right? Yeah. So yeah, is there anything that can be done to make the parents responsible?
Yeah, I'll hop in. So from the security ambassadors, so they're not capable of issuing citations. So they're considered private security. So any private security that you see for any city, which most cities do not have the ability legally to issue citations. So that would fall on code enforcement officers for us or sheriff's deputies. So those would be the two roles that would have the capability of doing that. But what staff will do is continue the education part. I mean, when we're thinking about doing some focused operations with code enforcement, that could lead to that. But again, we always err on the compliance, voluntary compliance side and educating folks first. But for some reason, if they are having difficulty and somebody is just not being cooperative, then that could lead to a code enforcement officer issuing a citation to the parent. And if for some reason the parent does not want to cooperate with the code enforcement officer, then that can lead to the code enforcement officer requesting the assistance of a deputy sheriff. So that's kind of the workflow.
Okay. Thank you. And I just want to make note that after I had my interactions with them, I did not have children. And kids like this make me very glad that I did not. But I was talking to a relative and actually mentioned the scenario. And something that this woman said to me as a mother was, you don't know what's happening with those kids at home. She actually persuaded me not to involve myself or authorities anymore because of that. And I think that it's pretty obvious that they're affecting a lot of people. It's not pleasant, but I just do want to raise that because it did make me think twice about what might be going on for these particular kids. Horrible that we would all have to suffer for it, but I just want to make note that, you know, there may be reasons that these kids are acting out that maybe we're not seeing that are really unfortunate. And hopefully if we do make the parents responsible, they'll understand that, you know, that this is something that's impacting or a lot of the community or most of the park-going people that I've heard from, as well as I have seen these kids, and they're pretty worth reporting. So hopefully we can get to a point where maybe their parents can be made responsible. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Winnick?
Yeah, I'm much on the same. First, yes, I want to thank you for the reporting. It's really useful, and the 7-minute response time seems pretty good. I'm glad to see that as well. I think it's quite impressive. I want to follow up on the idea of Bike Week, and we have sheriffs and others out on bicycles, and yes, please have them learn how to take the lane or use the bike lane. It's really disturbing to me when I see people who are in official capacities who are riding their bicycles on the sidewalk because they're scared to ride on the street when the rest of us are riding on the street because that's where we're supposed to be. So that does need to get fixed. As far as these kids, I don't know if you've all seen news reports, but several kids on e-bikes or scooters have killed or badly injured other people. And the parents are being convicted of crimes. I think that this is not just a question of, gosh, would you please tell your kids to behave? It's like, look, if you can't figure out how to control this, you could be the next one down at Superior Court with a criminal indictment because your kid caused something really bad to happen. That is out there, it is happening, and I think that that's something that we should be pressing on. And having said that, I wonder if there isn't something in between. I mean, if they're cursing people out and harassing people and being a general public nuisance, they're a public nuisance, and something needs to be done about it. You know, much as with the vendors, if we have permanent hazards in our city, we need to figure out how to address them and get it taken care of.
Thank you, Commissioner Monique. Do we have any public speakers at this time?
We do. I'd like to call Andy up to the podium.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. My name is Andy. I'm a member of the houseless community, and I'm probably not going to be the nicest person with regard to the ambassador program, but just specifically toward our community, because I don't relate with ambassadors when they relate to all these other issues. And as far as those metrics, it would be interesting to see the metrics for ambassadors, or if they've elevated it to a black and white down to sheriff, and how those metrics work. The reason why I'm speaking today is because I've had some interactions with ambassadors who are inexperienced. It might be they're too young, first job, don't understand working for city government as a contractor. I'm not really quite sure. However, I have made formal complaints to the city with Ms. Shanty, who, as I understand, is the general manager of the public safety part in the rec center. So we've had some emails back and forth. I don't really appreciate my privacy being inhibited by unnecessarily having my picture taken. I don't appreciate being harassed by ambassadors when I'm not doing anything wrong. While it is on the same street, on the same note, we have bikes going down the sidewalk, scooters going down the sidewalk, dangerous behavior by other housed people, while it is that I feel unnecessarily those percentages like 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 are not right from our vantage. And I say this from a retired nurse who specialized in facility chronic behavior health issues, right? When I looked on Santa Monica, the most vulnerable of us, the only thing that's missing between that and a corridor in my facility is a roof. Okay, so I've seen security ambassadors actually speak or call 911 on city resources that didn't need to be wasted. And luckily I was able to interject and go, wait, that person was up 5 minutes ago, just, touch them, question them, call for them. Like, that's unnecessary. So I have interjected. And with our people who are most vulnerable, these ambassadors don't know anything about, multiple personality disorder, dissociative identity disorder. I do, as a nurse, and I've interjected. And I've had ambassadors go totally disregard my experience or look at me as someone who's houseless with all my stuff on me as opposed to someone in scrubs. The lack of respect is so undeniable. So what I would say is, you all are missing qualified individuals who meet people where we're at in life. And you're not doing it. And I have better luck with Sheriff's Department than I do with ambassadors. So there are some that are very good and meet us where we're at in life. Most of them don't have the right experience. Thank you.
Stephanie Harker.
Yes, thank you, Commissioners, for your comments about the kids in the park. I really think this has reached a point. It's been going on for months and months and months. And these two kids particularly are there frequently, but I think it takes more than the ambassadors. I don't know who wears the all-black shirt, if that's one of the higher-ups, but they were zooming down. We were standing next to the tennis courts, chatting, and he came zooming down there and, down the other, round and round and round. And he did go over and talk to them. He said he had spoken to them before, but he gets no reaction because, again, it's toothless. So I appreciated your comments, Commissioner Eng, about their parents, because I don't know if the parents know they're out there, but they certainly haven't done anything about it. They probably don't. But I'm thinking that, do you remember the program called Scared Straight? Where hardened criminals spoke to kids in high school and scared the bejesus out of them and told them what it was really like to be on the inside. And the kids straightened up. So maybe if something, again, maybe it's going to take a uniformed deputy to be there and scare them. And, they may back off for a while, but, things escalate. And these kids are already scofflaws at their young age. And I don't see any any hope in their improving before they get out of school. But it's dangerous. It's not as bad as a couple of years back. I was out and I have a flag up for 4th of July. And kids snuck down the walkway and set fire to it. And I only happened to see them from next door, and of course they ran out the other side. But this behavior that they're exhibiting now is totally, totally irreverent, and they just don't care. And in fact, they pride themselves on being able to use the F word. Little did they know I probably invented that. But flipping us, I have them going up our street, and when they see me taping them, I get the big middle finger salute. So again, I think it's going to take, and I hope that we can do that sooner than later, uniformed officers. Maybe code compliance first, Mr. Rivas, and then they can contact the sheriff. But they're there almost every day, so it shouldn't be too hard to find them. Thank you.
Thank you. We have no more public speakers on this item.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your report. Okay, my time's up. And next, we will hear from our Sheriff's Department. Welcome.
Good evening, Sergeant Omar Luevano. I'll be talking about our stats for the month. For the month of April, West Hollywood Station personnel handled a total of 1,692 calls for service. 84 of those calls for service were for emergency responses. Deputies made 40 felony arrests and 6 misdemeanor arrests. Our Part 1 crimes for the month, we had 123 incidents. When broken down by district, the West accounted for 46% with 57 incidents. City Center, 24% with 29 incidents. The East, 30% with 37 Part 1 crimes. There were a total of 20 pickpocket thefts in the month of April. Our Met team responded to a total of 62 incidents for April. Our source submissions were also 45. Our West Hollywood Station volunteers donated a total of 281 hours in the month of April. I wanted to touch on some traffic incidents which occurred in the city in the month of April. There were a total of 3 vehicle versus pedestrian traffic collisions. 2, the driver was at fault, and the 3rd incident is still under investigation. For the month of April, there was 1 vehicle versus bicyclist collision, and the incident is still under investigation at this time. 1 vehicle versus scooter or e-bike accident occurred on the scooter operator was determined to be at fault. In April, we had 8 DUI arrests that were made. In April, we had 2 traffic safety operations that were conducted related to bicycle and pedestrian safety. 50 citations were issued, all related to bicycle and pedestrian safety during the first operation. Common citations included speeding, failure to stop at stop signs, failure to yield to pedestrians, and distracted driving. During the second traffic safety operation, 55 citations were issued for similar violations. I also want to report that one of the 10 aggravated assaults in April for arrest have been made for the month of April. Our entertainment policing has been continued to be present outside of the bars, clubs, and in the Rainbow District. The cops teams has continued conducting bicycle patrols throughout the residential neighborhoods and business districts during our business hours. We have continued to meet with our law enforcement partners, fire partners, and the City of West Hollywood for Pride 2026, scheduled to take place June 5th through the 7th. I also wanted to let everyone know road closures on San Vicente are starting earlier this year. San Vicente Boulevard between Melrose Avenue and Santa Monica Boulevard will be closed beginning Thursday at 10 a.m., and all the road closures for Pride 2026 will remain the same. A full list of road closures will be listed on our station's Instagram approximately 1 week before Pride. Please follow us at LASD West Hollywood Station for the most up-to-date information. With that, I'm open to any other questions.
Thank you for that report. I know during the special operations, you said that there were 50 plus citations issued. And it looks like on a regular day, what would you say the typical number of citations issued is, roughly?
During those special operations?
Outside of the special operations.
On an average day, I'd say within between the 3 shifts and the 24-hour period, you're probably going to get about anywhere from 10 to 12 citations for a regular patrol division.
Okay. So quite a jump on the special operations days. Clearly
Correct.
A need for that.
Can you repeat that?
I said clearly a need for those to continue.
Yes, and when we're doing this, we're just specifically focused on that, and most of those people are traffic trained people, detectives, motor units, which a motorcycle is easier to go through traffic than a regular unit, so they just have a little more access to people and to any violations they observe.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner, our Vice Chair Blau.
Thank you, Chair. Sergeant Lavagno, thank you for the report today. I really love seeing, I just want to comment that I really love seeing the details on here, especially, you know, the citations that we're consistently seeing on Fountain. I really love that and appreciate that. And especially the details from the EPT and the CIT team and the MET team as well. You know, I think that really warms my heart. It makes me feel good. A question that I've got though, when I'm looking at April 2026 versus this time last year as well, you know, the numbers at the top line there are pretty much on par. And then even scrolling down, you know, the numbers on the Part 1 crime show a significant decrease from the year so far compared to last year. So the numbers are saying sort of one thing. And, you know, we're hearing from the community potentially other things. So my question to you is, when I'm trying to evaluate, you know, whether or not the city of West Hollywood has sufficient patrol staffing, I would look at things like, you know, patrol compliance and the emergency response time and priority response time, those kinds of things. Those seem to me like the obvious things to look at, and I don't know any better about kind of what the times should necessarily be or could ultimately be. I'm sure they're asymptotic. But is there a different metric that, you know, we could potentially look at to understand, you know, the sort of stretched thin potential aspect that the sheriffs could be facing or could be experiencing?
I mean, at this point, really nothing comes to mind. I think a lot of it I see also is with social media.
Mm-hmm.
We seem to see a lot of stuff that's in our face a little quicker. And sometimes with social media, there's stuff that's put out there that's not even reported to us at times, or we won't get the information until after, then we'll look into it. So I just think there's a lot of variables involved with this sometimes that we can look at, but I don't think there's anything specifically that you're asking that we can probably look at or look for.
Okay. If something comes to mind, I think that would be really helpful just to help quantify. Because, you know, I mean, we're not legislative here, but that's certainly something that City Council would look at. And I think to inform everybody so that, you know, in the worst case, we don't overcorrect, right? In one way or another, right? That's what I'm kind of curious about. But thank you very much, Sergeant.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Eng.
Thank you, Chair. Sergeant Lavagno, the Vista shooting, the investigation, has that completed?
Which shooting?
The one on Vista?
That one's still being investigated, like Lieutenant Turner talked about on our last meeting. And we're still looking into it, but we really haven't had anything new come up at this point as far as any information that I've received.
Okay. I just want to make a point that during the last meeting, I had stated that I live near the building. It's true. That I communicated with someone who lived in the building. True. I mentioned what she said to me, but I recognize that I drew the conclusion that it meant that the woman who had been shot purposefully, and that was an assumption I made. So I just want to clarify that. That the facts that were reported were true, but I drew the conclusion, and I just want to state that that was not accurate. It was just something that I thought and does not now seem to be true. So obviously we'll wait for the report. And then the comment from Paul Nichols about the 40 vendors is pretty alarming. It seems like that number has really grown. You know, again, I'm not the target audience for the Rainbow District. I don't hang out there on weekends, so I don't generally know unless I'm told or I see it in media. But as it grows, or if it is growing, can that evolve what our response is? Because there is a difference between 10 and 40 really sounds like a crazy number that I mean, I'm not there, I don't know, but the reports seem to be that there are now 40, and that's just that's a huge increase. So I'm wondering if that can elevate any response.
Again, we've been out there along with West Hollywood code enforcement and us assisting them to be able to do, again, what the law allows us what to do at that time. And in the times that we've been out there, you know, we're out there being present. We try to keep them, as some people I think said, they wanted to keep them in certain areas of the city, and that's what we've been trying to do. But again, there's obviously the code enforcement is going to be able to do what they do and we're there to back them. And if anything gets to the point where it becomes a criminal or something where we can step in, we will.
Do you find that they respond, like if you or code, if sheriffs or code are telling them to move, do they?
Well, they usually move before we get there a lot of times. I think they fear code enforcement more than us, to be honest with you, because they have a little more teeth with what they can do to them as far as us, because what they're doing is administrative citation that they can get. Unless they're doing something that's criminal or something where we see that we can step in, they know that there's, obviously there's so much that we can do.
Commissioner Post?
Yes, thank you for your report. In regards to some of these street fights, I know you said that they are not always reported, that some of those things just show up on social media. Were any of the recent fights reported to you all, like during the instance?
The last one that comes to mind was, actually one wasn't even on social media. Somebody came in about a few days after it occurred. Again, sometimes people don't, either because they've been out all evening doing whatever they may be doing, or feel they don't want to report it because it's not convenient. So that's necessarily what's happened in my experience.
But the sheriffs did not respond to the actual incident for most of the recent ones.
Again, the hot dog vending one, there was a call for service that evening. We did respond. Okay. We did take a criminal report, and we are currently actively investigating that and doing a follow-up with a lot of the information that we receive at this time.
And then our entertainment policing team, I know you've spoken about them before. They are traditionally plainclothes officers actually in the bars. Is that correct? Rather than necessarily folks on patrol?
They do various aspects of patrol. They have done it in the past. They're out there on bikes also. They're on foot beats if you see them. They've been out there. They're actually on foot beats a little more lately. We've hired extra people to be out there, so we have the EPT team along with about 2 or 3 other deputies who are out there with them. So I think the presence is being a little more seen now by the community, hopefully, and even you guys if you're out there at that time.
Yeah, and that's how what I was getting at. I'm not sure how many folks we technically have on patrol as part of that entertainment policing team, but whether it's shifting some of those things from folks that might be actually inside the bars to having them outside to make sure that some of these brawls could be deterred, I think would be a good switch.
So, Commissioner Post, so the entertainment policing team is uniformed. So, the anomaly is the plainclothes operations. But I would say 9 out of 10 times the entertainment policing team is in full sheriff's deputy uniform.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Pilarski.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your reporting. I have a couple questions regarding Bike Month is coming up, or it is here. And I wanted to say thank you to the West Hollywood Sheriff's Department for posting the follow-up on the cyclist assault from 2025. I just want to acknowledge that it's important that the community sees that you recognize the assault and the harassment that's really going on out there. So thank you so much. I have a question. If we have a pedestrian cyclist safety operation planned for the month of May, do you know if there's one coming up?
I'll check with our traffic department and I'll make sure that we reply to you regarding that, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful. And then I had a question about, there's some feedback when something happens in your neighborhood and 10 patrol cars show up, and it seems like if we are stretched thin on our resources, there are a lot of cars showing up to one situation that might not seem to be as, it's a vacant property that needs to be looked at. Why are there 10 cars here? I wanted to ask if there are ways that these resources are being delegated to the different calls. Does that come from the department or does that come from the deputies themselves? Do they decide which event they go to?
Well, anytime you go to a call, there's going to be calls that come out as an emergent call,
okay,
which usually means somebody could be, having a medical emergency, an assault, a shooting. So it just depends. We can have a priority call, we're going to get there quicker, or just a report call. But when we do have the presence of, a lot of vehicles going, only thing I can assume then it's something that we train for, and it comes from when you start patrol to your train officer to us as even the supervisors. And usually if a call like that comes out, you have a supervisor assigned to the call along with a deputy. So you might see it more of a presence depending on what type of call it is.
Okay, good to know. And then a question about the missing person highlights that we get from Nixle. So this one hit a little closer to home. A friend of a friend, Douglas Matthew Haley, was last seen on April 25th. And I was wondering, in addition to the Nixle alerts, is there something in the neighborhood or within West Hollywood, a board that posts all of the missing persons? There are other additional resources than just the Nixle alert that we get for missing persons?
Well, for our department, usually we're going to put it through other department alerts. So if anybody, let's say, like if I was missing my name, they have my picture, and they detain me or give me a citation, pull me over, they will understand that it's me they're looking for. And then so it's going to go to neighboring departments. It'll go to other cities and whatnot. But something as far as the board, we don't have that here.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do we have any public speakers at this time? Oh, sorry. Commissioner Hallman.
Thank you. I have a question. I know when we have reports of residential building break-ins, for the ones that may have subterranean parking or parking garages, now that we are aware that gate codes have been written on the exterior sides of buildings, and deputies are going out to investigate these break-ins. Are they surveilling the exterior perimeters and looking to see if any gate codes are written on the outside of buildings that could be something that aids with the criminal element being able to get in much easier?
I mean, as far as that, I've heard it here in the commission and I've heard it from the community, but unless somebody brings it to the deputy's attention that day, obviously whoever the caller is, and that's something that you as a handling unit will drive around, look for stuff, and I'm sure if they see something where, you see something that may or may not be evidence or even a code, I think that's something that would be asked by our deputy who's investigating the crime or that call that day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And do we have any public speakers at this time?
Yes, Stephanie Harker.
Sorry, I'm not seeing it on my screen here. Commissioner Winnick, and then Stephanie, I promise. You're next.
Again, thank you, Sheriff, for all the work that you do. I'm going to come back again to the vendors because one of the, I know many of us saw the article today in WeHo Online, and one of the suggestions that was made, and this may be a question actually for Director, the suggestion is that instead of letting these people just sprawl out wherever they please on the sidewalk, to in fact designate areas, and that may be something that City Council has to do, it may be something that somebody else can do, so that it then becomes a clear, this is where you get to be, and if you're not there, then you're not allowed to be out on the street. And that would indeed address some of the safety issues. It also could conceivably address some of the problems with the trash and the oil and the other hazards that they're creating by moving them to a spot that's just a little bit less central and less likely to be causing problems for the rest of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Winnick. So part of the focus kind of outreach and compliance operations that I think I mentioned at the last commission meeting where our code enforcement staff work in tandem with our sheriff's deputies, that was the intent. The intent was to communicate to the individuals not only about how to become licensed, but more importantly, areas that we've identified that are still within the Rainbow District, but just on the outskirts right, where you're not likely to see that heavy pedestrian traffic, right, and volume. And so, while code enforcement staff was out with sheriff's deputies, that did prove to be effective. And we even had security ambassadors as well, and kind of create a perimeter, or I don't want to call it a scrimmage line, but essentially a perimeter around that area. And it was successful. We were able to achieve that. But the minute that code enforcement and sheriff's deputies call it an evening or a night, the vendors came right back up in front of the businesses. And so, letting folks know, again, hey, these are the areas, please, stay on the outskirts. Again, educating them. We have plenty of staff that are bilingual as well. And so, again, we did that for 2 weekends, Friday and Saturday, in January. We did that 2 weekends consistently in February. But again, outside of those weekends that staff was not out there, that did not occur. So we've tried that. We'll continue to inform folks about it, but from what we've seen, vendors, unpermitted vendors, want to be right in the front by the entrances, visible, to get whatever patrons are coming out, right, to buy food from them.
Right, and so I guess I don't know procedurally how it would work, but would it be possible through City Council to establish an ordinance that says if you're not licensed, here's where you go? And the other question that I have is, I know that some residents, because they're concerned about safety, have been hiring private security companies. But rather than do that, I'm wondering how much it would cost to have a code enforcement person actually on duty every weekend for the hours when this is the biggest problem, to get those people moved over. And is that something that could be added to the cost of a business development district? Because it may be that it's something where there could be a cooperation. The problem with the private security is that they can't write citations. So what you need is a public-private partnership, I would think, where the businesses might agree to pay extra to get a code enforcement person who could actually do enforcement and try to marshal this a bit. Again, I don't know, it seems to me that there ought to be that kind of answer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do also want to be careful. I mean, the street vending item isn't on the agenda this evening, but I understand the importance of discussing this topic. So to respond to the ordinance, so the street vending ordinance that the city currently has in place, although it does not designate an area where folks, are encouraged in writing in the code to be, it does, however, outline areas that they should not be operating under. So that is already built in, and that is consistent with all of the rest of the cities throughout the state of California, quite frankly. So we made a concerted effort when we made amendments to our sidewalk vending ordinance as it relates to Senate Bill 946, and this is the Safe Sidewalk Vending Act that I mentioned to the commission, was adopted in 2018 and went into effect January of 2019. So again, I encourage folks to look at that ordinance, and yes, that ordinance at state law does prescribe the ability for local municipalities like the city to be able to enforce time, place, and manner, right? But through administrative fines. So that is the difficulty and the challenge, as I mentioned at the last commission meeting, is the administrative fine being the sole, approach, bless you, for compliance for our team. But there is something that is, as I mentioned, outlined in our current ordinance. The second component, it definitely would take more than one code enforcement officer. Those code enforcement officers, I mean, when we do focused operations, we have at minimum 4 code enforcement officers that are now partnered up with, at minimum, 6 deputies. So, I'm just trying to just give a little bit of a sense. And in those operations as well, we pulled about 10 to 12 security ambassadors throughout the community, right? And all were focused in the Rainbow District. So, again, we were able to achieve the results and the goals that we wanted for those focused operations. And we just concluded one 2 weeks ago. And for whatever reason, there were far less vendors that evening than there were typically. And so, but staff again was successful, and that was the one that we did Friday and Saturday in the month of April. So for Pride weekend, we actually have our entire code enforcement team that pairs up. We have sheriff's deputies that team up. They are the vendor detail. And then they do, walk around. Everything's on foot patrol within the footprint. You may have seen them if you're out and about, but they work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday until about 4 o'clock in the morning each of those days. So we do that for Halloween as well. But of course, those major events, we see hundreds. We're not talking 20, 30, 40, right, that you would see on a regular weekend. You're seeing hundreds. And so it does get quite overwhelming, but again, that's kind of the goal and the focused effort doing those major events. But it is something we are exploring. We are looking at approaching this in a little bit of a different way. So we'll see kind of where that lands, but this is a priority for us on the Community Safety Department to work with our sheriffs, look at our security ambassadors and try to figure out a way to kind of augment and respond to what's occurring.
Thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Hallman.
Thank you, Chair. Director Rivas, I know you and I have personally had this discussion, and I've learned a great deal about SB 946, and I understand the state law. I am on the boulevard most Friday and Saturday nights working. I see what happens in front of Beaches Tropicana. It's almost impossible to pass on the sidewalk because of the vendors. So is there a city ordinance that mandates that you cannot block the middle of the sidewalk and impede the normal and standard flow of pedestrian traffic? Like, is that something that could work in our favor?
Yeah, so we do have that language that's in there, but again, the obstacle is the ability to enforce for a more kind of progressive perspective. And so, issuing an administrative citation, as I mentioned, is very difficult and challenging at times. Just being able to kind of acquire the identification, but most of the unpermitted street vendors will, as soon as Sergeant Lovano had kind of mentioned, the minute they see code enforcement, they know the uniform, they will start walking away and they evade the area, right? And you'll end up pushing them back to an area where you're gonna be okay with them operating, right, that is not in the front of the businesses, and that's what we were able to accomplish. But without that consistent presence, from my experience and the input and feedback, of course, that we hear from our teams, you have to be there, the entire evening, keeping folks at bay in order to achieve that. So that's really the approach and things that other cities tend to do, and again, working in tandem with police officers as well, for us, that being the sheriff's deputies.
Commissioner Eng.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm sorry, Director, because I'm going to go right back to the vendors. It would seem that there's a specific time they set up, yeah? I mean, and can we not maybe have that be the enforcement of just not letting them set up, like having code people out there at 7? You got to tell me what time people come out, because I don't know. So is that not an option of stationing people just to not allow them to even get set up?
Yeah, absolutely. But you have to remember that you have so many entry points into the Rainbow District. So we just do not have that many code enforcement officers. Even if we pulled the entire division, and had folks at every single street, and that's what we do with the security ambassadors, right? So that's a part of that deployment, is pulling those resources to have folks, on Palm, as I'm looking at North Side, Palm, Larrabee, San Vicente, right, Hilldale, Robertson, right? So, and then looking at the south side, which is a little easier because of course you don't have those residential streets, right? So a lot of times what you see vendors, they get dropped off, they have vans. We do get license plates, and now we're able to kind of take action if need be. If we are seeing folks coming out of there that are tied to that vehicle, at least we're able to identify who the registered owner is, et cetera. But in many instances, they're rental cars. I mean, there's a variety of different things that you see. So there's several nuances to that. And yeah, they typically don't come out at 7 p.m. They wait a little later, around 10 p.m. And are really out and about around 12 a.m. But you'll start seeing them at 10. And they communicate with each other. I mean, we have a good sense of the operations. What would be extremely helpful, and I know these are things that have been commented as well, is, well, why don't you reach out to the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health? Why don't you have the health inspectors out? And so I just want to remind folks that as of September of last year, the county did place a pause and suspended the enforcement of street vending and dealing with unpermitted street vending because of concerns over the federal immigration enforcement that's been occurring. So there have been several other cities and other jurisdictions that have done things similar as well. So yes, you do have the ability to reach out to Los Angeles County Health Department, but the health inspectors are not coming out and doing any sort of enforcement. They are doing educational focused operations, but even before that pause, I will say we've partnered with Los Angeles County Health Department to come out during major events, to team up with code enforcement, to team up with sheriff's deputies, to deal with the unpermitted vendors. And that proved to be, just as successful as we do when we have our code enforcement staff with sheriff's deputies. And the minute they see, health inspectors with their jackets and in their uniforms, they know, and they'll start evading. And so health inspectors by far are the only ones currently in Los Angeles County that have the ability to condemn food that is not properly labeled, right? Where you're having sanitation and health and safety code related violations that exist. And so they are the only ones that have that capability. We've communicated with them in the past. We are reaching out to them again. I understand that they had some conversations internally in the county, and so I don't know if they're going to be shifting potentially back to maybe considering going out and maybe doing some partnering operations, but please know that we've even explored that option, as well as even seeing the idea of maybe potentially entering into an agreement, an MOU with the county health department, paying for and funding health inspectors to be dedicated to assist code enforcement officers with being able to kind of be a little more effective, right, on the approach. But that is where things stand right now. And so we don't have the support that we had prior to September, but for my opinion, good reason, and understanding the concerns that come with the federal enforcement, practices and things that we know are going on. So that is where we're at right now.
Thank you. I guess I'm going to ask Commissioner Holman, what time do these clubs generally open? Like, are the vendors out there before the clubs are even open?
No, Director Rivas is right. You typically see them, 11 p.m., 12 midnight, the high peak patron hours.
Commissioners, Stephanie Harker, I know you've been patiently waiting.
Good evening again, Stephanie Harker, City of West Hollywood. At the last meeting, both you, Commissioner Pilarski, and you, Commissioner Eng, said you felt pretty safe here. But then later in the meeting, you said you had escorts walking you home. And my point is that we citizens want to feel safe walking our dogs or just taking an evening stroll without having to call an escort. You know, there was a study done that was published out of Princeton University, I believe as far back as 2017. It's called More Cops, Less Crime. And I can forward that to you if you'd all like to read that. But they found evidence that police reduce murders with a point estimate implying that one life can be saved by hiring 11 officers. So contrary to a statement that was made at the last meeting that police do not prevent crime, they react to it, I believe there are studies that show they do prevent crime. Thank you very much, and thank you to our Sheriff's Department for always keeping us safe, or doing the best you can with all the craziness going on. Thank you very much.
Steve Martin.
Steve Martin, West Hollywood. You know, I had mentioned that we ideally could attack or deal with some of these issues before Pride. Obviously, the calendar's working against that. But maybe to state the obvious, we were told by staff that this wasn't on the agenda and that maybe this isn't the most appropriate way to do it, but maybe something could be put on your agenda for the next meeting, and we can have business community people here. We can have staff, I would suggest staff take videos and show you videos of what they've seen the next 3 weekends, 4 weekends, so that everybody has a real understanding of what's going on. I mean, somebody has to be in charge here, because otherwise we're just coming back and forth and we're just jerking each other off. I mean, I feel safe here too, for the most part. So I do appreciate that. I think we're lucky that we've got escorts, but you know, there are just those times that we don't. And also, I think this is more about, well, it's about creating a sense of security and a sense that we're not chaotic and that it's a safe place for tourists. I mean, we're sending 4 city council members to Amsterdam at God knows what cost to promote tourism. And then this is what tourists are gonna see? I mean, this is like when those guys from Britain got mugged, last year at La Cienega and Santa Monica. It was a real black eye. And, you know, somebody here needs to take leadership, and I think you guys can, and maybe put this on your next agenda and talk to the Chamber of Commerce, talk to the Boys Town Association, or whatever we're calling it now, and really start laying the foundation for really getting this thing resolved. Anyway, thank you.
Paul Nichols.
Hello again. I just felt the need to come back up one more time after hearing all this. And I mean, I think everybody sees what the situation is. You know, I know many of you, we all live here, we all work here, most of us, and it's just, it's one of those situations. Also, as far as Danny and Omar, whatever, I'm gonna get it wrong, but to me, literally that's how often I deal with these two, that it's Danny and Omar. There's not many cities where you can say that, I text the head of this department or I text the sergeant. So they're aware of it. They want to do something about it. Obviously, it's a problem for all of them. I see how, Jason, who's one of the code enforcement officers, it completely demoralizes them, that they're basically laughed at by people who are actively breaking the law and don't really care about our city. It's not an education issue. You can't educate somebody who doesn't want to learn. It's definitely part of a broader problem. They're hustling, they're doing what they're told to do. They're being dropped off in vans, they're being told exactly what to do, where to stand. They're told, don't listen to them. If they try to move you, you don't have to move. And then they're being picked up in a van. And, for a city that's so concerned about minimum wage and labor and looking after workers, I'd be very curious what the minimum wage should be for a 14-year-old working on the streets at 2:30 in the morning in West Hollywood, because that's exactly what's happening. So if there is stuff that restrict the city, there has to be other things. California, as far as I know, is very environmentally aware. I don't know what would happen to me if I started pouring my grease from the club down the sewer drain, but I have a feeling there'd be some consequences. So that can't be legal. There should be some enforcement for that, for polluting our streets, polluting our oceans. I don't think I can employ 13 and 14-year-olds to work for me either in the nightclub. I feel like there maybe could be some action with regards to that. It's just, if there's something preventing enforcing this, then there needs to be another way before there's another commission that's formed to deal with something that went down because of this, when it just got out of control. And the one thing I've learned, and Commissioner Eng, you'll remember when we had this conversation when we were looking to extend our hours, my main argument was, you want the professionals dealing with people because we know how to predict bad stuff happening. I can predict, they call me the Oracle. I can predict the person who's gonna, potentially fall down the stairs 20 minutes before it happens and make sure they don't. I've built a career on doing that, on seeing, bad things happen before they happen and preventing them from happening. And this is one of those things that is screaming red alert. And I just don't want the next conversation to be about that awful incident that happened in West Hollywood where somebody got maimed or somebody got their face burned or somebody, something even worse happened. So I just wanted to comment after hearing all this that it's not for lack of trying from anybody, but there has to be a way to do it better. Thank you.
Kathy Blavis.
Good evening again, Kathy Blavis, City of West Hollywood. I'm kind of doing a public service announcement, if you will. Stephanie and I were alerted by a friend that a known sexual predator, Jackie Harrington, was released from jail again, and that he's been seen on the 1200 block of Hayworth, and that a neighbor saw him trespassing but didn't report it because he didn't actually do anything. So I don't know if I'm out of line in asking the sheriffs whether or not there can be some sort of a post or some sort of way of notifying residents with his photo, that if they see him, and if they see him trespassing or doing anything against the law, that they can at least notify you. I know a lot of the residents on Hayworth know him on site, but a lot of other people don't. So he's been arrested over 40 times, I've been told. So I just wanted to kind of alert people to that and see if there's any way for the Sheriff's Department to notify the public. Thank you.
We have no further speakers.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for the report. Unless you're staying for the drone item. Thank you. Hello, Captain Lapkin. We are now going to hear about our first responder pilot program for drones.
We are. Thank you, Chair, and members of the Public Safety Commission. So Danny Rivas, Director of Community Safety for the city. As you're seeing joining here, we have our captain of our West Hollywood Sheriff Station, Fanny Lapkin, here to join on this item. This has been a long time coming, and certainly want to start off by mentioning to the Commission and to the community, we know that there was a delay in terms of getting this staff report item attached to the agenda online, but we were still working through some last minute items on this report with our Sheriff's Department. But we do want to take ample time here to go through it thoroughly. And I want to preface that this item it isn't a discussion in terms of whether or not the drone as first responder pilot program is being implemented or not, is being moved forward or not. That discussion, as reflected in the staff report, has been had several times, and ultimately staff did receive direction from the City Council to implement the Drone as First Responder pilot program. But we did come across some unexpected delays, which occurred last year in advance of Pride, which we were intending at the time to actually begin operations for our Drone as First Responder program. And so we had a setback, and we had to pause the implementation as a result of some concerns that the Sheriff's Department communicated to us, which again were last minute, but nonetheless, we've been able to move forward and have worked with the Sheriff's Department, and they've done what they've needed to get an amendment made to their department policy. And so that is what you're seeing as attachment B to the staff report, is that finalized amendment to their department-wide policy, which did not exist prior to April 9th of this year. And so once we were communicated that, in an effort for us to bring this not only to the commission, but to the community, to have that discussion before we bring this to the City Council to review what changes have been made. That is the purpose and the reason of why this item is before you all this evening. So Captain Lapkin has been a huge part of all of the efforts, of course, even prior to her promotion to captain as a service area lieutenant. And at that time, our captain, Bill Mulder, as you all recall, was also heavily involved in terms of visiting a number of different commissions, advisory boards, and City Council, and having those discussions. And so that is what you're seeing memorialized on the staff report in the first couple of paragraphs. It's just letting the community and the commission know, again, because it's been some time, that since August of 2023, that's how this discussion emerged, and it gives a timeline more or less of where we are at as of today. And so the new Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, we refer to it as the Drone as First Responder, but the Sheriff's Department and other police departments, what you'll typically see is it being referred to an unmanned aerial system or unmanned aircraft system, so UAS. But that essentially UAS policy in any department, including the Sheriff's Department, is essentially their drone policy. And so, as I mentioned, attachment B to the staff report does outline several changes that have been made, and we did prepare a comparison table to make it easier to highlight exactly the changes that have been made. But I'm just going to click on attachment B because I wanted to emphasize one key aspect of this. As a part of the amendment that the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department made, the Drone as First Responder program is only being piloted by the West Hollywood station. The intent is to eventually have this program expand department-wide. So to other stations and other communities, there has been a lot of interest from other contract cities like us to implement it, but we will be the first station in the entire county with the Sheriff's Department to implement this. So that is the reason why you're seeing in big bold letters it's stating policy applies only to the West Hollywood station. So I wanted to just make mention of that before we move forward into the policy comparison table. So we'll go through each of these and I'll summarize that and then, of course, open it up to the commission for any questions. Again, wanted to make sure that we had our station captain, who serves as our chief of police for our city here, to be able to respond to inquiries, and of course, any additional input feedback. We are going to gather all of that information, and the plan is to, of course, when we bring this to the City Council, I think originally I had mentioned that it was planned tentatively to be presented to the Council on June 15th, but there are going to be a number of other Council items because our May 18th City Council meeting is going to be dedicated to our city's budget. So that's going to be a study session. There's not going to be other items that are on there. And so all of those items, again, just get pushed right to the next meeting. And that next meeting isn't going to be until June 15th. So in light of that, we are pushing this presentation to the City Council to June 29th. So June 29th will be the date that we return back to the council with this. And so again, all of the input, feedback, inquiries, et cetera, that is shared, we're summarizing all that information, and the plan is to include that in the staff report, similarly to what we've done in the past when we've done outreach before the commission and other commissions and advisory boards. So with that, I'll dive into the comparison summary table. And so the purpose and program structure, there is an expansion where I kind of mentioned it early on. It went from just having a station level order that just guided the station and making that department wide. So that was one of the concerns that came up as it relates to us having to pause, is that they wanted to make sure that, from a department-wide perspective, that they looked at other policies in the department that they had and making sure that there was consistency with that, as opposed to there just being a West Hollywood specific order. So that is one change to make mention. The station order as well in 2024 was managed essentially at the captain level. So with this change, the Sheriff's Department is creating, and they have created, a UAS operations unit. So they were able to kind of pull folks with this area of expertise together, build a team, and that team is going to be working in tandem with the station captain, right, and the command staff that report to Fanny, to Captain Lapkin. So that is another change, and so that's what you're seeing under program oversight, is that multi-tiered oversight and accountability structure that was established. The definitions portion was also expanded, so there are the same and similar definitions, but they expanded that. So they added the drone as first responder into the definitions to call out exactly what that is. I know it may be obvious, but again, the Sheriff's Department didn't have anything in place, so they took advantage of the opportunity to do that. And then you're seeing other roles, personnel roles, and other definitions that are called out in the policy that were not called out in the 2024 order. And so they wanted to make sure, obviously, that they're giving that overview and that folks are able to kind of see that, those definitions and what those technical capabilities are for those roles. Deployment authority hasn't changed, other than the fact that now it's requiring notification to that UAS operations unit that has been established. So prior to that, I mean, you had the watch commander, the station captain, approval for deployments. So that is still going to occur, but they need to notify that unit that's been created in the department within 48 hours of deployment. So they're going to be keeping their logs, right, and information as it relates to the flights, et cetera, what it was used for, and making sure that they're communicating that within a 48 time frame. FAA compliance, there were general FAA rules and information that was notated, but they added formal coordination, again, with the UAS operations unit, and they added not only the FAA, but they added NTSB as well, and just making sure, again, that there's consistency from what they've seen from other police departments in terms of what they've been utilizing and reflecting in in their policies. Prohibited uses, so there was additional language that you're seeing in this update that calls out that, random surveillance without a public safety nexus is not something that's allowed. The use of facial recognition technology is not something that's allowed and was called out in this updated version. And then the use of drones for any purpose as it relates to, weapons. So, if it's non-lethal or anything of that sort, there are some drones that obviously have that capability. So that is not something that's allowed as a part of this policy. So moving to the second page, we get into privacy protections. And so there was, language and text that was always included in the 2024, but it got expanded a little further. It really called out the direction of the camera itself on the drone when it's in transit. So from the time that it's deployed to the time that it's on scene, et cetera, this really isn't a change internally from an operation perspective because that was already going to happen, but the difference is with the updated version, they wanted to make sure that they called that out specifically in the policy. What I want to emphasize is the data retention and evidence. This is important to call out because this is a substantial change from the 2024 order compared to the updated policy. And so in the 2024 station order, it prescribed a 30-day, retention period, meaning that any recorded drone flights would be kept in storage for a period of 30 days, and then it would be purged at that point. Unless, and here's the caveat, unless, of course, it was being utilized for evidentiary purposes. So if there's a criminal case that's being filed or that drone went out to a call for service and was recording and now the suspect in that situation is being pursued or addressed or that individual is apprehended, then as that's going through the process and unfolding, which certainly would exceed the 30-day period, that evidence and that video would be kept. What has been done now with the updated policy, going back to kind of the department-wide consistency effort as a part of this update, is they did tie it to the body-worn cameras that deputies wear, and that retention period is 3 years. So all drone flight video recordings that are going to be used as a part of the pilot program, instead of it being 30 days as presented in 2024, it would now be 3 years. So that's quite a bit of difference. Again, the evidentiary value or use, that remains in place, right? So whether that exceeds 3 years, et cetera, so that could still be maintained and kept for that specific case. Recording requirements, so our 2024 order said recording of all missions, and so that essentially is going to remain in place. Obviously, when the drone responds to a call for service, it will certainly be recording when it's on scene, but it added some more specific recording requirements based on operational circumstances, and it provides that, while it's flying to the call or the location, versus like on scene, right? What specifically is that going to look like? And so so it does introduce some nuances there, but essentially that's what was going to be done in the 2024 order, so not much of a change there. Reporting, as I mentioned, there was always going to be logs. There was going to be a dashboard that was going to be utilized for transparency purposes. And so what this does, though, is it's taking it a step further. It's calling out a specific, management safety. It's the risk management component system that the department has, that mandatory reporting that I mentioned to that UAS operations unit within 48 hours. And then there's weekly, monthly, and annual reporting requirements as well. And so it just adds and beefs up that section a bit. And then in terms of the transparency and public reporting, as I mentioned, there was already going to be a community dashboard and an outreach plan. I mean, we were ready to go last year prior to Pride. And so when that was going to happen, we did do a couple of community sessions in advance of that. And so we would certainly be planning to do some additional community outreach sessions. We had one here in the council chambers. We had one virtual as well, just to try to capture, folks, making it a little more convenient for folks to attend and participate. So we'll be sure to kind of mirror that moving forward. However, one of the things that has been updated in this policy that was not included in the 2024 station order is the annual reporting to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department Civilian Oversight Commission. So as a part of this updated policy, the Civilian Oversight Commission at the county level for the Sheriff's Department did weigh in on this updated policy. And I should have mentioned that in the beginning. So please know that they did review this. They did provide comments, et cetera. Also the Office of the Inspector General as well. And the Department of Constitutional Policing with the Sheriff's Department is the liaison that kind of filtered through that and made sure with the working team that was working on this update that they touch base with the Civilian Oversight Commission. So again, that was something that was not included in 2024 that is now written into the policy, and that was something that was provided by the Civilian Oversight Commission. So there will be an annual report as it relates to that. Military equipment compliance, so that was not called out or addressed in the 2024 station order, but with the working group, they wanted to make sure that they were also being consistent, not just with department policy, but they were also looking at state law. And so that is where that code section is being referenced there, and it's just making sure that the reporting and oversight requirements are also being fulfilled at the state level. So this is the last page, and so the training and certification, this is not something new, but language was expanded to include the UAS operations unit. So the station will also be keeping track of that, and they are going to be the ones, of course, as well, kind of communicating that to the UAS operations unit. I think the plan, and Fanny can answer any questions or add to that, but the plan is for the UAS operations unit, if the program continues on a permanent basis, gets expanded like what's intended countywide to other stations, that the UAS operations unit will kind of take the lead on that. Obviously, they're going to have to work with each of the stations anyways in keeping track of the logs, the deputies that go through the certifications to fly the drones, et cetera, making sure that all of that is being maintained. So it does expand the language, but that was a part of the 2024 order as well. And then safety framework. So there was kind of general fitness for duty guidance in there. It takes it a step further where it includes the safety management system. Again, that's just a component of their risk management practices and wanting to make sure that that's consistent department-wide. From an accident reporting viewpoint, so there was basic FAA reporting thresholds. However, they're taking it a step further. So they're including their Aero Bureau. So that is the specialized unit within the Sheriff's Department that flies the helicopters and obviously deals with the FAA and is very well versed in the requirements, et cetera. And so when there is an incident or an accident that's occurred, you want to make sure, of course, that you're incorporating those folks as a part of the investigation along with that UAS operations unit. So it requires just a more heightened level of detailed reports, but the photos, the witness statements, all of that, I mean, that was something that was planned to occur anyways with any sort of investigation, but it's just calling it out and listing it out specifically in the updated policy. And then the auditing and compliance, and so, minor change, again, is just adding, in addition to the station training sergeant and staff at the station itself, it's saying annual Sheriff's Department command inspections. So it's taking it a step further. You'll have the UAS operations unit. And so, the command inspections, that could be the commander, that can be the chief, And so those are the next levels of positions and oversight over a captain at the station level. So it's increasing that checks and balance and making sure that that's notated and reflected in the updated policy. And then lastly is the equipment and technology standards. And so there was nothing that was formally standardized in the 2024 order, but wanting to ensure that, you know, the equipment, the software, et cetera, that is being reviewed by that UAS operations unit. And so again, that's just adding to kind of the more department-wide kind of centralized control over what's being used from station to station. So consistency and making sure that it's meeting all of the guidelines that the UAS operations unit feels necessary, right, for every station. So you're not having, you know, I don't know, a Ford vehicle being used in one station, right, and you're having a Dodge being used at the other, you know. So they're just wanting to make sure that there's consistency there. So, so that concludes, you know, staff's presentation. Again, you know, happy to go through this list. We pulled together just looking at the station order from 2024, the UAS updated policy, and looking forward to the commission's input, feedback, questions, and again, just summarizing all that information like we've done in the past and making sure that we incorporate that in the staff report that will be going to City Council again on June 29th of this year.
Thank you. Commissioner or Vice Chair Bell.
Don't worry, I'll be brief. I might come back around. Thank you. I just wanted to, before I have some edits and points that I want to call out in here, but I think what I want to also call out first is that, you know, I think our goal here is to make sure that, you know, we've got the right tools, that the team has the right tools to solve the problem, and that the usage and constraints of them are understood. And with council direction, this is a pilot program, right? So it's really important to us as a commission and as a city that West Hollywood, that we recognize West Hollywood as a test case for this project across the county itself. So we have an extra special duty, in my view, as commissioners and as city to provide, you know, feedback and oversight where possible into this. And one thing that I also wanted to call out from the report that was a question that I had that answered itself is that per the policy, a drone first responder doesn't count as a deputy response. And so a UAS, quote, a UAS alone deployment does not constitute a response to a call for service. So if there's any concerns that come up from the community about, oh, I'm only gonna get a drone, it's gonna like bark at me and then that's gonna be it and it's gonna fly away, that's not gonna be the case. That was a concern I was kind of thinking about. I'll go to a few that I want to highlight in particular in the deltas here. So not in the table here, but missing in the revised policy that was explicitly in the 2024 station order that I think is worth highlighting is we're now missing the explicit commentary on limitations of using the explicit limitations in using the drones around ICE use of investigation or enforcement, and specifically around abortion clinic usage or visitors. Those were called out in the 2024 policy, and they're not in there anymore. I have a few. I'll list a few, and then I'll let my colleagues continue as well. Towards the auditing portion as well, you mentioned, and it's listed in here, that we're adding, let's see, adds annual LSD command inspection and continuous oversight. As far as I was reading, is that it's actually a swap. So instead of quarterly reporting, we're going to annual reporting, is how I read that briefly. And I don't know if that's something that we would want to do. I don't know if that was the intention.
So we're not eliminating quarterly, but we're saying about the command inspections is we have command inspection for all the different bureaus at the station. Mm-hmm. Part of the UAS is going to be part of the command inspection when we have a commander and our chief that they come in, different bureaus come in and conduct inspections, and then we review the results of the inspection to our commander and our chief annually.
Okay.
But the quarter reports and all that is going to be submitted, like when we said they're going to be weekly, monthly reports that are going to go to the UAS division. So okay. We're going to have different metrics.
But I think the nuance there, that's at least just a delta from 2024 that I think is worth raising to City Council, if nothing else, is that what it previously said, and I don't see the quarterly in here, and so maybe that's something that, I don't know, we'll just note, because we can't change it, is that we're not spelling out and promising the quarterly audits. And previously in the 2024 policy, it explicitly noted that those audit findings were going to be shared with the city. This new path has the audit findings on an annual basis fed up internally via the sheriff's department. So it's a slight difference there that could potentially change how visible the city has on things, at least from a contractual standpoint. I will leave it there for now.
Thank you, Commissioner Pilarski.
You know, I think it might be worth, if it's okay with the commission, I do want to have Captain Lapton speak about the immigration language in there, because I think that's important. Yeah.
So the immigration language, we already have policies set in place for any contact with our community. That immigration status is not going to be asked. So anything to do with immigration we don't participate in any investigations. We're not going to work with immigration on any operations. So the reason why it didn't make it to this policy, because we already have policies set in place on helpers, our body-worn camera footage, and also we have policies set in place for any type of procedures, like whether it be traffic stop, pedestrian stops. So since we already have a policy set in place for immigration, that's why we didn't include it, because we already have policies set in place.
Commissioner Pilarski.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Commissioner Blau. I think I'm going to pick up on your point about the internal auditing versus a third-party audit. I think there is value in having an outside audit versus an inside audit based on the information that we receive as a city. So if they're, typically like the IG would look at LA Metro, the IG would look at Amtrak, the IG would look at these outside people look at the system, and they look and see if they're following the rules, and they have no internal connection to the program. That seems to be the right way to do an audit instead of an internal one for something that's so specific.
Can I
Did
add,
you want to? Yeah. Did you want
So
to?
we will be presenting to the Oversight Commission on an annually basis on the stats, and they can audit. They audit us anytime they wish. OIG does the same thing. Again, we are the first pilot program, so obviously we're going to be moving and growing to see how that's going to work. But we do present to OCP, Office of Constitutional Policing, and the Commission as well, Oversight Commission.
And then a bigger conversation about community engagement and community outreach. Does the city have a list of events that they will be presenting this information for, that we can see, before 90 minutes of presentation to the commission, where we would know, we can get our community teams together, our neighborhood watch groups, at least with a month's notice, or is that not possible?
Yeah, that's definitely the plan. That's what we've done before in the past when we did two of the sessions that I mentioned. We did one, a town hall focused on the drone as first responder program here in the council chambers. And so we did a mailer, we informed our neighborhood watch groups, and we tried to tap into the community as much as possible in terms of inviting them. And on that mailer, it called out the specific date and the virtual meeting as well. And so we will replicate that and do that. It won't be tied to any other event. It's going to be a town hall just focused on the drone as first responder.
Okay, that's great news. Sure. I wanted to ask a question specifically about facial recognition. So, I am very nervous that these drones will be flying over rooftops with people, out and about, and they won't have any real say in, what's going on. Does the drone have facial recognition software on it? No, not at all. Okay.
It's not. That's one of it prohibits, when we mentioned on, let me look what page it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does not.
Okay, because there's a difference between prohibit use of it or that it just doesn't even have
It's
it
not equipped.
available. Okay, great. And then a question on the flight paths. I wanted to just clarify, will these drones be leaving from the station, and is the flight path direct, or are there corridors where it will be able to go and not go?
It's going to be geofencing on certain things, and there will be a certain flight path for specific locations. Like it's going to be from the station, so going east, it'll have a certain flight path to go on that. So, but there are going to be certain areas where they're going to be geofenced where they're not going to be able to go.
And who will set the geofence?
It's based on structure, buildings, light poles, trees. It's going to be based on where the limitations are for the drone.
Okay, the line of sight stuff.
Correct.
Okay. So just good to know, if you are in the flight path of a drone, you should come to the community outreach event. All right, that's it for now.
Thank you, Commissioner Post.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I definitely have more comments later, but to some questions, I definitely reiterate the concern around the ICE and DHS piece not being in there. I know those policies are in other places in the department, but even if it's a line referencing that station order or that ordinance that is already existing within department policy, I think it should be there. We're just in a moment where we need to clarify those things, and I'm sure it's already in those other policies as well, but I think we need to include a line there. One of the other things, given that it's expanded to department-wide, and some of this leadership is not just at the captain level anymore, it was previously discussed that really it was only going to be yourself, Captain Lapkin, and Lieutenant Turner that would have access to this data and be able to search it and do those things. It sounds like now that would be a larger group of individuals that would still now have access to this, at least the UAS program coordinators for sure. Does that also give access to captains of other stations and things like that?
No, the information is limited to the station, both on our live feed cameras and the drone, but we do have a unit that's going to oversee the drone programs and implement it in the future department-wide.
And then another thing I just wanted to ask to clarify, I know that there was a policy against instances when there's protests or free speech about folks not engaged in unlawful activity. That means that these will be used in those large gatherings, you envision using these drones in those situations?
There we go. The policy actually dictates the prohibited use on page 4 of our policy, where it states we shall not, and including on their First Amendment assemblies, purpose of identifying and participate to engage in unlawful conduct, personal business, and then again, we talk about the different restrictions, but it's on there. We are not, that is one of the, where it's going to be prohibited. We're not going to use it for any gatherings.
I know, I think LAPD has a similar policy, and I do know that they have used their cameras or their drones for instances of free speech. And I think, again, using that unlawful conduct is a way they might be getting around that. And I know protests and things can be quickly considered unlawful, and so I just want us to be cognizant of that piece as well. But I'll leave it there for my other colleagues.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. A question about the drone's camera. So the camera will be on the minute it's launched from the time it arrives to the incident?
The camera will be on, but it will not be recording.
It will not be recording, okay.
It'll only record when it arrives at the scene. And even prior to that, when it was recording, the gimbal was going to be facing the horizon.
Right.
So the camera is going to be facing the horizon, and as soon as it arrives to the location, then that's when the gimbal would tether down, rotate down to look at the scene, and then that's when it'll start recording.
Okay. what are we required to share, or can you explain a little bit more about the relationship with FAA and NTSB and what type of information they'll receive through this partnership?
FAA will, we are required to notify the FAA when there's any incidents with it. We also have reporting mechanisms where anytime we have a flight path or anything, but the main thing for NTSB and the FAA is if we have any specific incident where we need to report it to them.
More logistical, okay. Thank you. Do we have any? Commissioner Blau, Vice Chair Blau.
Thank you. Yeah, I was waiting to see. Oh, Commissioner Eng, did you? Oh, okay. I can. Yeah, I can. Also, I'm in support of the program as well, and so I also don't want this to be conveyed as like tear it down. No, I'm trying to make it as good as we can as well, just that that's clear. One thing that did come out to me really. Anyway, one thing that I want to call out is still on that same page 4 for permitted uses, actually, and this is related to what you were talking about, Commissioner Post, actually, is the 3rd bullet in there, which I think could be potentially problematic. Question, who is the unit's division chief?
That is under our SWAT because it's body-worn cameras, actually Detective Division. So body-worn cameras under the Detective Division, who's under Special Operations Bureau. So that's, do you want the name or who?
Is it like, so is it doesn't sound like it's someone who sits here in West Hollywood regularly.
No, the division chief, no, it's not. It's under Emergency Operations Bureau.
Okay, because I think this 3rd bullet could be potentially where you're talking about Commissioner Post, drones showing up, is a pre-planned use of the drone to monitor a pre-planned public event done with the approval of the unit's division chief. That was something that wasn't in there previously, and that's an addition. I think that's basically kind of new allowed usage, just that I would like to call out effectively. Can't change anything. And just a general comment.
Oh, yeah. Where is that?
On page 4. Oh, it's scroll up. There, 3rd bullet. Deployments to monitor a pre-planned public event must be done with the approval of the unit's division chief. And that's one of the shall meet the following standards. Yes. And then just in general, and I think is it in this page? But I think the general term nexus to public safety as being a qualifying event for this. If nothing else, it triggers me a little bit because here in the Public Safety Commission, we're also limited in our scope to things that are select within our purview, and we could make a nexus to public safety about kind of anything. I wish we could be a little bit clearer about what nexus to public safety means in constraining that usage, but yeah. And then the last thing that I've got is just sort of a request in the realm of this being a public or a pilot program, and it's something that I raised 2 years ago, I think, when we were initially rolling out some of these new technology programs, is that with these being pilot programs, we're trying to get feedback and a request that the feedback to the commission be more frequent than the biannual public safety updates that City Council gets. I think would be helpful for us as the sort of liaison with, or a liaison with the community, to provide feedback in a quicker standpoint would be beneficial if that's something that we could do. Whether it's rolling in the monthly reporting that's already done as part of this program into our monthly reports, or if we just pull up the web page. I pulled it up myself here, and look at it on a monthly basis once that starts rolling out, at least for a little bit. I think that would be something great to ensure that we're getting feedback and visibility on this program, so it's not like a spy program. That's all I've got. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Commissioner Pilarski.
I had another question about identification of these drones. So if I were looking up, how would I tell if it was a private drone versus a police drone? Would I be able to tell?
We're going to have markings that'll have like the LASD. We'll figure something to manage. We'll have to figure it out because again, it's a lease, so we'll have to figure something out. But I don't know. That's a good question. We'll see.
Okay, yeah. Just because, in my neighborhood, drones make a lot of noise, right? So you can tell when one of them is over you. And a couple of times I've seen drones over my house and spying on me, and I'm like, what's going on here? So thank you for taking that feedback.
Good question. Commissioner Post?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Danny, I do appreciate you calling out at the beginning, Director Rivas, the timing of the staff report, and I think we've asked some great questions this evening so far, but I do think it would be great to allow not only ourselves but the public a little bit more time to digest this and bring back feedback. I'd still love to hear public comment this evening if there's any, but if the commission's open to it, I would like to table this item until until our next meeting as well, under unfinished business, just to be able to continue any comments so that it's agendized.
As a note, that also fits with the shifted time that this is going to be brought to City Council, which is because we're meeting on the 22nd,
right,
and then they're taking it to the 29th.
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem at all. I don't. 22nd. You said public safety. That's our next.
We're on the
public safety
22nd. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can put it on the agenda and of course invite additional comments from the commission and for members of the public. I think that's fair and it gives us enough time. I will say this though. What we're hearing this evening, we'll compile it, and so when we submit like our staff reports, when I said June 29th, we have to have everything fully baked 2 weeks in advance. So we can hear, that's for the city council agenda. So we hear, we'll bring it. I think that's great. We'll give another opportunity. And then we'll do our very best to incorporate any additional comments that maybe we've never heard of before this evening. So if there's something additional, we can always maybe submit a memo and attach it. But you more than likely are not going to see that in the staff report, but it would be like an attached memo that could be added.
Yeah, I would appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments? And do we have any public comments?
We do not have any public comments.
Okay. Then we'll hear items from staff.
Bye, Captain Lackp again. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair,
just wanted to make
Vice
use of
Chair,
that.
and members of the Commission. We want to thank you for your support and attendance at the annual Public Safety Awards ceremony on April 28th. It was a great day of recognizing members of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Los Angeles County Fire Department, security ambassadors, and our Neighborhood and Business Safety Division team. As part of the city's ongoing and enhanced emergency preparedness efforts, a full-scale emergency response exercise took place in the city on April 29th. It was a great training opportunity to provide the West Hollywood Sheriff Station and West Hollywood Fire Stations with an opportunity to respond to a simulated incident in real time, while also allowing city staff to practice our internal response protocols under realistic conditions. Please save the date for this year's National Night Out event, which will be held on August 4th. More details will follow in the coming months on the various activations. City staff and our public safety partners are in full gear planning for Pride 2026, which will take place June 5th through the 7th. We look forward to another successful and safe event. As a reminder, we encourage all community members and those who plan to attend Pride to sign up to receive WeHo emergency notifications by texting 90069 to 888-777. This concludes the updates from the Public Safety Division. Thank you.
Chair, I do have, and I didn't let Nita know,
introduction?
but yes, I do have an introduction. We have our new Neighborhood and Business Safety Manager in our department, and so that is the position that oversees our code enforcement, operations, all of our regulatory business license, and will be the liaison to the Business License Commission. And so I wanted to introduce Abraham Duran and allow him to make an introduction and for the commission to make any comments.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. My name's Abraham Duran. I'm the new, I'm trying to remember the whole title because it's pretty lengthy, Neighborhood Business Safety Manager. I got 20 years of code enforcement experience. I came just from the county of San Bernardino, where I was overseeing as a deputy chief, staff of 50 code officers there at the county. I'm really excited to join the city of West Hollywood. I've been listening to the whole meeting, so we have a lot of notes that I've been mentally notes taking here and meeting with Danny about some of the concerns that you all have, especially with the vendors and such that we've actually discussed earlier today. So I'm super excited to working here, working with all of you, and look forward to seeing you in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Happy to have you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Do we have any public comments?
We do not have any public comments.
Look at that. Okay.
Abraham,
Commissioner-
welcome.
Yes, welcome.
Welcome.
Commissioner comments.
We're excited for you to be here.
Commissioner Eng, go first.
Okay. Let's see. I want to start with, there was comments that were made about sheriffs and policing, and something that I always find very fascinating about the sheriff conversation is that there always just seems to be so much, too many sheriffs show up, or it takes 40 minutes, or there just doesn't seem to be necessarily the perfect, I don't know, perfect opinions about what I hear about policing. And something that I say that I very much appreciate about our city is that we do have ambassadors that can respond. I myself have had to call sheriffs and ask the ambassadors to come and wait with me, which they have done. When I made the comment that police are not tasked with preventing crime, what I meant was, well, let's see, if the sergeant and the captain see a crime in progress or they see something that's going to happen, do I think they'd prevent it? 1,000%. But I also think that people have this misperception that it's a cure-all, and I don't agree with that. If there had been a sheriff car parked on Vista in front of that apartment building, would that shooting have not happened? Sure, it would not have. But what are the chances of that? I think the fourth component when we speak of public safety in this city is ourselves. And I think something, Stephanie, you made the interesting comment about two of the females on this commission saying that they felt safe, yet calling for escort. But that is one of the reasons that I feel safe, is that I have the option to call for an escort if I need to. I feel sometimes like this is about growing up as a female, that I have always had that sense of having to be alert and aware and to be mindful of safety. When I'm out on these streets, I am not wearing a fabulous shoe, I'm wearing a tennis shoe. I'm not on my phone, and I do consider that also an element of the public safety that has been set by the city, and I feel I feel a measure of responsibility for myself in that. So I'll say that, and then this is our last meeting before Pride. Staff, Duran, you are about to, let's trial by fire for you, so I hope that it's boring. I hope you all get a lot of rest. And then I'm going to say that I have participated in Pride. I guess this is my 4th year as a commissioner. I don't know if all of you have participated, but something super meaningful is that every single parade that I have been in, you will see what I think is a kid holding up a sign saying, "This is my first Pride." And every time I see that, I call out to them, we do this for you. And I think it's really important for us to remember that it isn't just a celebration and a party, but this really is about the rights that have been fought for, whether they're women's rights, gay rights, whatever rights they are. And I think especially now, we need to really remember that it's about the fight and not just about the party. So I hope everyone has a great Pride.
Thank you, Commissioner Eng. Commissioner Pilarski?
Sure, thank you. I wanted to say Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Thank you to the staff for providing docs on the screen. I know we've gotten some feedback on that, so I appreciate you guys listening. I had a question about our work plan. I know we said we were going to talk about that at each meeting, and I was wondering if we had a plan for June and July yet.
Thank you, Commissioner Pilarski. So after the last meeting where we presented the work plan, I distributed the work plan to all of the commission members. No material significant changes have been made since then. So each quarter, we will bring it back to the commission just for review. However, at commission comments, if there's any items that would like to be added on, edited, inquired about, we are open to discuss that at each meeting.
So last meeting, I asked that the item that would be on the agenda be highlighted versus the city events that you also have on here. So I wasn't sure what was coming to us for June.
So we are working with our sheriff's department to potentially, and again, there's a lot of planning that goes into play just for availability. One of the comments that had been made about possibly having the hate crimes item come to the June agenda, so we are looking to see if we can bump that up into this quarter. So that is currently what is being worked on.
Okay. Okay, and then the other things you have on here, WeHo Pride, CPR training, CERT training, and UCLA Rate Treatment Center.
Yeah, so the CPR training, we already kind of accomplished that at the last, I want to say 3 items from staff comments. We highlighted the CPR and AAD training, and again, the point of that is just to allow the community to hear about various emergency preparedness opportunities that we have available through our Public Safety Commission meetings, just to kind of promote that. So we were able to accomplish that, and then again, the UCLA Treatment Center, we are in communication with them as well to try to get them scheduled to come in as well.
Okay, okay, thank you. I wanted to also highlight there was a conversation about the communication with Neighborhood Watch versus Neighborhood Resilience teams. So I know that that's somewhere Q3 maybe, but if as that develops, maybe we could have a conversation about what meeting that would be specifically. Okay, and then last but not least, Bike Month is May, and the city is hosting an event on Thursday. Bike Month is more than biking, it's just, you know, using alternative ways to get around. So if you have any questions, I would encourage everyone to come to the city's event on Thursday morning and get a donut and maybe get some bike lights and come say hi. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just wanted to say a couple things that I've done in the past couple weeks. Older Adults Commission. Is it a commission or a board? Is it a board? It's board. My apologies. It was great, along with Commissioner Post. Just a really great thing to participate in, and really hearing members of our community who've been here a very long time and how much they appreciate this city. And several commented that they feel safe. Definitely heard some, you know, the normal complaints of scooters and things that you hear me talk about, so I'm glad that I could sympathize with them on that. And then the following day, participated in the fair that took place. Commissioner Eng was there, and I believe others. I think I just missed you. But it was really great to see all of the resources and services that the city provides to that population. I mean, it's pretty amazing, really, considering the size of West Hollywood. So, and people taking advantage of it, more importantly, and sort of knowing what is available to them. So that was really great. And then that same night, attended the Transgender Advisory Board meeting, which was also very interesting. They are working on an event. I don't know if this is a question for Fanny or someone, but they're working on a possible event in late August, and they were concerned about safety. And is there tips sort of that we can give them, some type of guidance for how to even set up? So maybe that's a conversation that, you know, we can have directly, but it is something that came up just given the sort of heightened sensitivity of that community now and how targeted they are. That is all I have. Any other commissioners' comments? Commissioner Winnick?
Only if I remember to turn it on. Thank you. Several things, yeah, bad manners, sorry. Several things. I wanted to say this was the first time I ever attended the Public Safety Awards, and it was a really wonderful experience, and I very much appreciate being invited to participate and to get to meet some of the first responders and other people who help keep our city safe, and I'm glad that we do something to very specifically recognize them. It was really, really impressive. I'm probably going to miss Pride because I'm going to go ride bicycles in Alaska. But I hope that you all have a really wonderful time, and I think my niece will probably park in my driveway again because somebody's got to park somewhere, so there's that. I have a question. It's not something we have discussed at all, but it's something I'm aware of as a resident. I'm curious to know if we can get a report about the Holloway homelessness facility, the housing facility. And the reason I ask and the reason I think it's germane is that when it was being proposed and as the work was being done, there was a lot of community concern about safety issues that could be raised in connection with that population, in connection with drawing people to create dangerous crowds in front of the CVS on that corner. What might happen with the IHOP building that's there. So to the extent that there have been public safety concerns raised around this, I would like for us to get a report about that at some point, if we may.
Yeah, actually, Commissioner Winnick, it's something that we're monitoring on a monthly basis. You know, since the opening, we have not seen any unusual activity or anything out of the ordinary above and beyond what we were already experiencing prior to it opening. So, you know, we maintain that 24/7 security ambassador kiosk at Veterans Memorial Park, and so part of that assigned post is to ensure that that individual is also you know, stepping away and doing patrols, but we do monitor. We take a look at calls for service, and there hasn't been you know, any spike or increase or any trends that are concerning.
Cool. I think perhaps it would be good to get a formal report that could become part of the city record, again, because there was so much concern raised by so many people. So if we're seeing that it's not a problem, I think that should also be part of the public record.
Yeah, so I know our Human Services Department does provide updates, and so I know they're on our work, or the look ahead kind of schedule in advance, so we'll reach out to them, and because I know they do have some information, and so we'll see if maybe when they do that, we'll provide that, and then of course forward that and supply that to us too here at the Commission.
Just to make note, their televised meeting is tomorrow in chamber. Human Services, yeah. It's a one annual, and they'll do it tomorrow here.
Got it.
And then I'm not entirely sure of the procedure because I haven't been on the commission all that long, but I wanted to suggest that we might have staff add the vendor situation to our agenda. As you pointed out, Director, it wasn't actually on the agenda today, except that this is the second meeting that we've devoted a good amount of time to it, and it's very clearly a community concern. And I thought that Steve Martin's comment about putting it on the agenda and gathering a little bit more data and photographs and information about more detailed. I mean, you've been very good at answering what's happening kind of on an anecdotal basis, but to have a more formal identification of what we're seeing, what's being done, what we can do that hasn't been done yet, and other options, I think would be a really good thing to do because clearly this is something the community wants us to be addressing.
Yeah, we'll definitely have a conversation with our city clerk's office to see if that's something that would fall under the purview of the commission to bring forward. I would need to really kind of take a look at that perspective, and we'll see if there's something we can add. We certainly will in the future, and we'll communicate that to the commission.
Thank you.
Sure.
And that's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Post.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, just to add off that, I think one of the ways that I would also like to see that come forward, obviously, we have our new neighborhood and business safety manager, maybe give him some time to get under the feet, understand the situation a little bit more. But I think having it come, particularly maybe under the guise of having alcohol and beverage control come and present. I know that might take a little bit longer given they're like a state agency, but especially some of the concerns that we've heard around that vending specifically. And I think just general knowledge about how those alcohol licenses work and how that relates to public safety could be beneficial.
And so just to respond to that, because I know that came up at the last commission meeting, we have not heard or learned of any additional vendors that are serving alcohol. I know there was a comment that was made last meeting. I heard one that was made again this meeting. And I think the one vendor that we were made aware of, we had communicated that that we've no longer seen that individual, and so we're not aware of that occurring. And the reason why, just so the commission knows, I mean the street vending, it falls under the purview of code enforcement. And so code enforcement does not fall under the purview of the Public Safety Commission, but we understand the important topic as it relates to the nexus to public safety and the other concerns, the fighting, which is clearly law enforcement. That's not a code enforcement issue, right? The alcohol sales, that would be something that would be, two-prong. It could be code enforcement, it could be ABC, it could be sheriff's deputies as well. So we understand that too. But what we're seeing every weekend is the unpermitted street vending. And again, that's a code enforcement issue, that's a business licensing issue. And so if there's a policy, like an ordinance change or something that's being proposed, then that would be something that would go through the Business License Commission first, and then it would make its way to the City Council. But that's something that would be initiated either by staff, or that would be something that would be directed by the City Council for staff to maybe expand the outreach and the component and whatnot. And so, but we'll have a conversation with the city clerk's office, about placing a future agenda item and what that would look like, right? Because you can easily kind of dive into different angles of that issue. And so that's why I made that comment earlier. I mean, we had the Los Angeles County monthly report. And again, I understand because of the fight. So yes, absolutely. But if we're just talking and focusing about the unpermitted street vending, that is, again, in our business license ordinance. That's a violation of our municipal code, and that's something that's enforced by our code enforcement officers, not by sheriff's deputies, right? So I just want to make sure that I'm setting and kind of managing those expectations, and so I'll make sure to communicate with the city clerk's office, see what's feasible to come back. We'll reach out to ABC to see if that's something that they can come and speak to. But that could be something as well that, sheriff's deputies can speak to as well. They're the ones that are more than likely going to be dealing with the alcohol sales more so than an ABC agent would, especially in the Rainbow District if you have a potential vendor that's selling alcohol and shouldn't. Deputies are the ones capable of enforcing the Business and Professions Code no differently than an ABC agent. So that wouldn't be code enforcement, right? That would be deputies. So there's a lot of crossover. So I just want to make sure whatever item we do potentially bring back, that it's very specific in the areas and there's that nexus under the commission.
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, I know that there's a lot of the gray areas when it comes to public safety because we talk about a lot of things that technically I believe are public safety, but may not be when we're looking at the different divisions and code enforcement being one of them. But I think as long as we're going to continue to hear from the public about these issues, we need to be doing something as a commission. I really do believe that in the comments that were made, because it is viewed as a public safety issue. So I understand the nuance of who's enforcing codes, but I think it's a public safety issue, and we need to have better answers, or at least be discussing ideas. And I think Commissioner Winnick was one of the first to potentially, think about a workaround for how, we can, enforce these codes. But again, I just think it's incumbent upon us to be able to talk about these things if the public is speaking to us about them at our meetings. So thank you for looking into that and getting that back to us. Any other comments? Okay. This was a long one, guys. We made it. We are adjourned until June 22nd, 2026 at 6 p.m.